The Sports Lounge, brought to you by Waterview Sportsbook and Casino, with hosts John Wiener and Ray Coleman. Welcome to the Lounge.
Welcome in to the hottest new show in Mississippi, seen and heard everywhere. Ray Coleman, what's up, man?
My man, glad to be back in the lounge with you, man. What are we talking about this week?
It's always good to be in the lounge. We always got a great time coming up. Big stories nationally and here in Mississippi, and then everybody's favorite segments.
Well, everybody's favorite segment has to be when they see me win. But other than that, in Game Time, we're going to bring back an original in Game Time, of course. But before we get to that, we got to get to some hot topics. We can talk a little bit of college baseball, NBA Finals, you name it. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Table for two, boxing edition. There's some boxing in the works here in Mississippi and across the country. Of course, we'll deep dish, get into a nice topic. And Mississippi State SEC legend, 11 years in the big leagues, current radio analyst Jay Powell in the lounge, Ray, college baseball. It's that time. And once again, right here, it's the center.
And why not bring in the specialist, the expert that is Jay Powell to kind of talk us through not only Mississippi State, but just college baseball in general. The guy is such a, as like I like to say, a treasure chest of knowledge when it comes to college baseball, man. So just really, really excited to have him on the show.
We're hanging out with the crew, and we'll introduce him soon. We're glad you're with us, Ray. Let's get into the starters, and we'll talk about the NBA Finals. And you and I have talked a lot about, the matchup, certainly, and Golden State and Toronto. But a different conversation. The ratings are way down here. I mean, down for the lowest in a decade for the NBA, and didn't really go up from Game 1 to Game 2. Are you surprised at the low ratings?
I am surprised, but I guess I could kind of see why. Warriors fatigue is one thing I think it is. I think it's just one of those things where they're tired of seeing the same team win over and over again, which that can't be the full truth because that's what the NBA is. It's dynasties.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that, right?
It happens
our entire
throughout
lives.
the history of the game. That's what it is. I also think that the superstar on the other team in Toronto doesn't have a personality in Kawhi-Leonard. Yeah. So at the end of the day, they can't relate to him. They can't get behind him. So that's why I think they're like, why tune in to something where you know what the ending is going to be and there's no vested interest in the other team?
I think a couple of things. Let me put it simply, like nobody really cares about Toronto. Although, however, what should be pointed out in this ratings discussion is Toronto isn't counted. Yeah. This is just within the USA. So there's a whole lot of people watching that basketball game in Kansas City. And I think we see just what LeBron means to this league and what a different kind of star he is. Sure. I mean, like his teams weren't a lot better than this Toronto team. Right. In fact, this Toronto team
kind of built the same way.
Probably even better. But minus LeBron. And then we talked a little bit about it. It's like people care more about Drake than what's happening with the Raptors. But I do. I think it's Warriors fatigue, and like Toronto just doesn't do a lot for people.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, again, if you don't know the storylines, if you don't know the players, and again, Kawhi Leonard is a hell of a player, top 5 player in the NBA, but he doesn't give you much to work with. So if you're not like truly invested in being a casual NBA fan, then you won't be invested in Toronto. Toronto, the place, Canada, the country,
city,
right?
Man.
Canada, the country, they're all in. They're having historic ratings, but just here in the States, it's not picking up like it used to be, and those are some of the reasons why.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that like everybody has their eye on, certainly in Mississippi and in the SEC, is the college baseball Super Regionals. And Ray, we talk college baseball year-round here in Mississippi, but now the nation and a lot of our listeners I know are going to be watching the Super Regionals this weekend. 6 SEC teams out of the 16. Mississippi State and Ole Miss being 2. You got 4 more. It's the most in NCAA history. And I just think it's as good of a testament to any, in terms of the quality of the league in the SEC. We'll talk with Jay Powell about it. Not necessarily the top, Ray, but the depth. What you face in the SEC, 14 teams, week in, week in, out. And I think, Ole Miss was like 5-6 in the SEC this year, and we see how well they're playing. I think the depth of this league is just immense.
And listen, it speaks to the quality of the competition. Iron sharpens iron. If you're really good in the SEC, then you're probably one of the best teams in the country. If you're bad in the SEC, you're going to get smoked. So you got to continue to build to compete with that level day in and day out.
And it's not dissimilar from football.
No. Once you get out of SEC play, then guess what? You feel like you've already run the gauntlet. So anything else is, I don't want to call it a step down, but you're prepared for the Stanfords that you're going to play, right? As you look ahead to the Super Regional for Mississippi State. So it's just one of those things where iron sharpens iron, and the SEC is the best conference in baseball, point blank, period.
And I also think the atmospheres that you play in the SEC, it's a postseason game every Friday night. The ability to host, I mean, we got to see.
You got to see a lot of that.
We got to see Duty Noble Field, Swayze Field, Alex Box. They were all incredible. It's hard to imagine how any team goes in there to win. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Miss or LSU. Yeah. But, then you get these other teams, that come in. I mean, some of your 2 seeds, your Big Ten teams, and you always hear the line, like, we haven't played in front of this many people combined all season. And what a great time and, what a great place to enjoy college baseball.
Before we move on, though, is somebody from the SEC going to win the championship?
I think so, absolutely. When you look at the last 10 years, over the decades, whether it's like the Florida LSU series that you had together back in the day, I think if I'm betting on the winner out of the 16 teams, it's going to be one of the 6 from the SEC. And I honestly think State and Ole Miss both will make Omaha. I really do.
As we look ahead to the future, maybe you'll be able to bring some booze in, John.
Oh, yeah, because I've never brought booze into an SEC game anyways.
Good. We went ahead and got that out of the way, right? So the latest story is that the FCC lifts the ban on alcohol, beer and wine sales within those venues. So Duty Noble, Davis Wade, the Vault, you name it. Yeah. Well, not so much in Mississippi because that rule has changed up a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But your thoughts, just initially when you hear that the SEC is dropping that ban?
Well, first of all, being in Oxford on Saturday night when this news broke, the folks in Oxford were really excited about it. Yeah. And they have resort status already, so they can do it. The thing to pay attention to is the SEC is, we're lifting the ban, but what are they? They left it up to the states, as they say. Now, it's the individual schools. Ole Miss, you feel like will go forward. They've already got it in place. Mississippi State will have to change some things, and the state law will have to change some things. So I think that let's wait and see just how far this goes. But it's going to be a big moneymaker for the schools and the SEC. It's great for the fans because who doesn't want that? Sure. And it's kind of already happening. And there's the idea, the old European philosophy, if you actually let people drink all the time, then you don't have to, take down the fireball before you go in. So it's a great moneymaker and it's great for the fans. But we'll talk about in deep dish.
Sure.
Is this the right direction for the sport ultimately, and what we do think will happen with the schools?
And I'm going to save my thoughts for that. I'll just simply say, if you've ever been to a tailgate of any kind in the SEC, you know that this really is nothing new.
That's kind of my thing. Right? It's alcohol, and people will be able to buy beer now officially.
You know it's really nothing new. I got stories of guys bringing it in, taping it to their legs, you name it.
It's not even going to be fun in the SEC anymore.
So it's almost like you're making it too easy for them, but at the end of the day, we'll talk about that in deep dish for sure. More on that to come.
Well, look, you and I are both boxing fans.
Sure.
We love boxing. We grew up watching so many of the great, certainly middleweight and welterweight bouts, Oscar De La Hoya and Roy Jones Jr., and we'll hit that in table for 2. But it was big news, national news. You had the Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua fight. Joshua got washed. Yes. It was a bit of an upset. Yeah. He looked terrible. And for me, as a Deontay Wilder guy, Wilder has a big name in the South. Yes. I think Wilder can be a real superstar. Yeah. And it was unfortunate that, he was supposed to fight Joshua, and that was going to be a big heavyweight fight. That's off the table. Yeah. Is heavyweight boxing doing anything for you?
Yes, but only, sadly, it used to be all the other weight classes would carry the heavyweight division in our era.
Sure, because before us, was the great era for heavyweights that pretty much ended with Mike Tyson.
They have the ability to make a comeback, but those kind of things absolutely ruin it. A lot of people say it's boxing dead. It's not dead, but it's on life support. And it's not just because of that fight. It's because of the streaming services that you got to sign up for between ESPN Plus and DAZN. I'm just naming a few of them.
No, there's a lot of factors.
Because at the end of the day, you have to go and sign up for these subscription services just to be able to find a boxer that may be of that caliber. If I read out the names Terrence Bud Crawford, Vasily Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, those names don't...
Who?
Okay, exactly. Those names don't really mean much to the casual fan. Boxing has always been built on personality. Big personalities to sell those fights, to make you want to dial in and say, man, I got to see if this guy gets his teeth knocked out or not, right? We don't have that right now.
I think we talk about this a little bit with Major League Baseball. People want to see stars. Yes. People want to see big stars and big fights. And it's not out there right now in the heavyweight division. I mean, I've paid for a lot of pay-per-view events in my life and have no problem doing it. I mean, Mayweather, De La Hoya, Mosley, Cotto. So many great fights.
Felix Trinidad goes on
that
and
I'll
on.
happily pay for. But I think the fact that there's no one really people want to see. I kind of think Deontay Wilder could be that, but he doesn't have that big fight out there for him now. And we'll see, on the heavyweight boxing. But it cropped up for a while. But I just hate that Deontay Wilder can't find that big fight because I think he can be a star.
And he wants it. And unfortunately, those are the kind of guys that you want to carry the sport. But when you only have one or two making that effort, to fight the best and to sell it, that's what's killing boxing. It's not so much the fights; it's the fighters avoiding each other because of the brand name that they represent in an organization.
we're carrying the banner for boxing.
Oh, no doubt.
This week in the Sports Lounge. Are you ready for this? Coming up next, Table for Two, all boxing edition.
You know I am. Are you ready, though, for us to have some serious disagreements? Because I feel like we're going to go there on this one for sure.
There's some good ones in here. It's one of the better Table for Twos we cooked up. It's everybody's favorite segment. Stay with us. He's Ray Coleman. I'm John Wiener. We'll talk to the other guys here in the lounge in a second.
Get in the game in the Sports Lounge. Online, on screen, every week. Follow us online at Bash Brothers Media.
Hanging out in the Sports Lounge, he's John, I'm Ray. Got to give a shout out to the crew. Hack and Hank, Josh the Juice Clegg. Who else we got in the building? ISO Joe.
ISO Joe coming up. Before we go to the ISO cam, I just want to say, like, the shirt game in the Sports Lounge is strong.
It's real, man. I think what we're showing them is that, not only do we bring the sports knowledge, but we got a little juice with us. That's Juice Clegg, but we got the fashional juice too.
We've got some diverse fashional juice. Mark that one down. We got some diversity too in here. Like you got the lavender, look like you're going to like prom, and I'm like, look, I'm going to like a lumberjack convention. You know what I mean? Somebody said like I look like a picnic that they're going to eat off of. ISO Joe, speaking of, let's get to a Table for Two. And I also want to remind everybody, make sure you share the show. We want everybody to come on in the fun in Waterview, so you can get us BashBrothersMedia.com, of course, on the website, Facebook.com/BashBrothersMedia, on Twitter at BashBrothersMedia. We're everywhere. It's generally some form of Bash Brothers Media, but it's one of the hottest new shows, certainly going in sports, all things in the country, and certainly here in the Magnolia State. So give us a share and join us every week in the Sports Lounge. ISO!
All right, let's hit it. So we got Table for Two. I give you guys 3 choices as per usual, and you get 2 seats for those choices. So this is an all boxing edition. So let's get it started with some heavyweights. We got Joe Louis, George Foreman, and Mike Tyson are your options.
And I'm going first. So since I'm going first, the disrespect is so real. We're gonna have to just slap out one of these names right now.
Okay.
Editor, give me the slash. Muhammad Ali, where is he?
No. We know the deal in like Table for Two. Like we've done this before. Ali's so obvious that it's not even a choice, man.
All right,
I mean, we've done that before. Like we left Michael Jordan out of like the finals thing.
Muhammad Ali.
Obviously. I mean, we could have done the whole thing just on Ali.
Mike Tyson, because at the end of the day, when Mike was on his game, there was no night like Mike night, right? A Mike Tyson heavyweight bout had all kind of energy that came with it. So Mike Tyson for sure. And Joe Louis, man, just because of what he meant for the culture, not just the boxing culture, but for the American culture, what he did for this entire country and this African-American culture for sure. Joe Louis, Mike Tyson, got to give him to him.
I'm going to maybe surprise some people here, and I'm going to leave Mike Tyson out because I think it's important to consider that as great of a fighter as Tyson was at his peak, first of all, not near the longevity of Joe Louis and George Foreman.
Absolutely.
Those guys lasted. I mean, what's it in Scarface, Chicasa Champe, you know, they flash and don't last. That was a little bit of Mike Tyson. His run, you know, he was Tony Montana at one point, and then it all went down. But I just think you talked about with Joe Louis what he meant to the African-American community. When you look at George Foreman, the longevity of his career, one of the oldest people. I think he may have been the oldest to win the heavyweight bout. And George Foreman, I mean, Foreman Grill, you know what I mean? Like Foreman's a bit of a mogul, in other words, you know, in a way that Tyson never was. Certainly was Tyson the most exciting fighter, but I think we got to give credit to the quality of people that Joe Louis and George Foreman were.
And for what it's worth, without George Foreman, there would be no Mike Tyson. He was the original knockout artist. So at the end of the day, respect to George Foreman too.
He makes some fantastic grills too.
Yes, he does.
Have you ever used a George Foreman grill?
Absolutely not.
Of course he has.
Like, you have used one. I was like, I hear all about them, but I've never used them. Just the juice raising his hand.
It's one of the greatest inventions ever, George Foreman grill.
Well, next up, we got the best punch, right? So we've got the hook, we've got the cross, and we've got the uppercut.
Go ahead, man.
I'm going to go with the hook and the uppercut because I think like the hook is probably the most common punch in terms of like if I'm in a bar fight, like if people are in a fight themselves, I think you've got a better shot at landing the hook than like a cross and certainly an uppercut. Like if you're trying to do an uppercut, you're just going to get your ass
in a bar fight, you're in trouble.
You're going to get floored if you try to do the
uppercut.
But at the same time though, like when the boxers hit the uppercut and the I think the lore of that punch from like boxing to even, your like our video games, our Mortal Kombat and Street Fighters, when you can land that uppercut, it's the power punch, it's the home run punch, and I think the hook is like the most versatile. Cross is a nice punch. I go hook and uppercut.
Nothing better than watching a body shot, a hook shot.
Okay.
Nothing better to see a guy go down, or you can see that immediate pain go through his body when you give a nice left hook to the liver.
Yeah, it's a body shot, especially the hook.
It's a body shot, one of the best out there. Uppercut, when you see the likes of Mike Tyson do it, Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, when those guys will put together a proper uppercut, is one of the prettiest punches in boxing. So yeah, absolutely, we're going to go hook and uppercut on that one.
I will just say, Rocky Marciano, undefeated heavyweight, the only one of all time, his punch was the overhand cross. And so Marciano made that famous. It's got a special place for him, but we agree on that one.
All right, next up, we got the best pound for pound. This is Mayweather, Sugar Ray Robinson, and Jones Jr.
I'm going to go Money Mayweather, obviously, because he too is undefeated like Rocky Marciano.
Okay.
And he is one of the most complete boxers to ever do it. And I know, he's not my favorite person, but at the end of the day, he's one of the most complete boxers to ever do it. Sugar Ray, I don't care if it's Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Coleman, it don't matter. Sugar Ray, at the end of the day, the Sugar Rays are some of the best boxers to ever do it. Sugar Ray Robinson is regarded by most historians as the greatest boxer ever. And so for that alone, Sugar Ray.
I don't know how many more nicknames we can throw out in the studio, but Sugar Ray Coleman is pretty good. I don't know if we can. I mean, we're talking Robinson, Leonard. I don't know if we can put you.
I don't know if I belong in there
with them, but Sugar Ray Coleman, that was a good one. I struggle with this one. This was one of the hardest ones for me. Because I've watched Mayweather my whole life, and certainly being undefeated. Let me ask you this: Roy Jones, Mayweather as welterweights. Remember, Roy Jones started. He eventually went to light heavyweight. Was really a middleweight for most of his career. At the same weight, Roy Jones Jr. and Floyd Mayweather. Who you got?
Man, at his peak, Roy Jones Jr. had gifts that you can't teach. Doesn't matter if he had the greatest boxing skills because he didn't. He was very unorthodox in his game. But Roy Jones Jr. at his peak is probably the most athletic boxer that's ever done it. So yeah, at their peaks, you got to give me Roy Jones Jr. The problem I have with Roy Jones is that later on in his career, I literally saw him get put to bed.
He did.
Get put to sleep, put the blanket over him and all that. So.
And Floyd has avoided that one. But no, I'm going to go with certainly Sugar Ray Robinson for the same reason as you. Pound for pound, maybe the greatest little guy of all time. And none of these guys, of course, are little, but non-heavyweight. So I'll go Sugar Ray Robinson. But I'm going to go Roy Jones Jr. because I just think with Floyd, two things. It's not exactly like he's gimmicking the system, but I don't think the quality of opposition
it's not as exciting
that Mayweather has. Yeah, but I just don't think he's fought the fighters that Roy Jones Jr. fought, and certainly Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, who's the best fighter Mayweather fought? De La Hoya?
In their prime,
De La Hoya was washed, and
their
Pacquiao was washed.
I would say Miguel Cotto, but that's the one. You're right. Floyd had a great knack, and it's absolutely a knack.
He has a knack for picking the right fights,
picking the right guys at the right time when they're either just before their prime or just after. When he fought Canelo Alvarez, he was just before his prime. So give it up for him for knowing that he doesn't need to fight a guy in his prime because if he did, he'd probably maybe take a L or two.
If I was including businessmen and acumen, I'd go Money Mayweather. But no, I think Roy Jones would beat Mayweather in the ring, and I'll go Sugar Ray Robinson as well. Mayweather, it's how much money have I wasted in the last 4 years watching boring-ass Mayweather fights. He's terrific, and he's never been beaten, but I don't think he stands up to those other two guys. I don't.
All right, let's hit the best boxing movie, and this is Rocky, Raging Bull, and The Hurricane.
Wow. I'll knock this one out first, and I think Rocky has to be included. I'm going to go with Rocky. I mean, when you transcend your genre into the everyday parlance, Rocky and Eye of the Tiger and so many things aren't even about boxing now. That is American culture, some of the things that we get from Rocky. So certainly Rocky, and I'm a give Denzel a nod here and go with The Hurricane. I think The Hurricane is Denzel Washington's best performance that he's ever done in cinema. It's underrated in terms of Denzel's pantheon. It's not even as much of a boxing movie as a personal story of Reuben Carter and his redemption for The Hurricane. Raging Bull is classic. It's heavy. It's incredible. But I certainly Rocky, but I've got a soft spot for The Hurricane just because of the depth of performance in that one from Denzel.
I can't believe that we're not going to disagree on this one. The Hurricane, absolutely. One, Denzel Washington's my favorite actor. You're right, man. The way he portrayed Reuben Carter, during his stint in prison, and just the way that he portrayed that lifestyle of love and perseverance.
And he plays a crazy man.
Yeah, but he's a crazy guy.
Wrong, Denzel is so known for American Gangster and Training Day and that sort of, forceful protagonist. But I don't think even his Training Day character has near the depth of what he did with Reuben Carter.
No, absolutely not. And that's why I say The Hurricane is one of the greatest, not just boxing movies, one of the best movies out there. And Rocky, like you said, man, it's a part of everyday life. We can walk around and just start throwing out one-liners when it comes to Rocky.
Absolutely.
Rocky 1, Rocky 2. The better question probably should have been, which Rocky movie do we want to choose from?
No. I mean, the other ones are good, but they don't compare
just the original
to the
Rocky.
original Rocky.
I'll take Rocky 2.
I mean, they made enough of them where they had some good ones.
They're still making them. They call them Creed now.
I almost blew this one up for Mark Wahlberg and The Fighter. You know what I mean? Because that was a good one, but no, it doesn't compare to
Man, if either of you guys had picked against Rocky, I would have called you crazy. When you transcend a movie and you go to Philadelphia to go run steps.
It's true.
Yeah.
And there's a statue for you. I mean, come on.
And even like ISO Joe, who's like a young buck, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think
even
he's seen a single movie on the list, but he knows Rocky.
Even he knows better.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the best ring sport. We got boxing, wrestling, and UFC.
I'll go first. Boxing, obviously. We just talked about it. I'm a huge boxing fan. It's what I grew up on. I grew up on wrestling too, man.
Me too.
Come on now. I grew up on Bret the Hitman Hart and Ric Flair and Ravishing Rick Rude and Hulk Hogan, you name it, man. So
You
those
were a WCW guy.
Yeah, I was. Low key, I was a WCW guy, Wolfpack and all.
Go ahead.
I can't get into a sport that feels like that can happen to me outside right now. Like if I upset you, you may want to step outside and give me a swift knee to the forehead.
Just
you see
go
what I
in
mean?
the cage.
Yeah, so I don't really treat that as a sport. I just treat it as a real life situation. If you run up on somebody the wrong way, you can get your ass whipped.
What?
So yeah,
I better not run into any real life UFC situations. Look, this answer would have been different at different times in my life. Like, obviously, it's boxing, and I'm, power up on the boxing love, because I just absolutely love it, and especially growing up. I think boxing, when you go to an event, when you go to a big time fight, the anticipation and the electricity is probably unlike any sporting event I've ever been to, because you have that, like, there's blood going to be shed. There's a battle coming, not a game that we call a battle. There's an actual battle coming. So definitely boxing. I was certainly a wrestling guy growing up, and then I moved away from it, for a long time as we kind of mature from the wrestling antics. But I've started to watch UFC a little more, but I've had a wrestling renaissance of late. Our guy Mike Sands is a big part of it. # Team Sands, shout out. Yeah. But I feel like wrestling has crept its way back into the pop culture, maybe through social media. And the last pay-per-view event that I watched, I was at Mike Sands' house, and we were there together. And you and I both said, I was like, I could watch it. Like, this is fun.
It was so much fun, was it not?
I'm in again. So
I'm
gonna
dialed in.
I've never really been able to get into UFC. And I'm gonna go with boxing, and I'm ready to recharge my wrestling roots, man.
What about you? Are you a boxing guy, or are you a wrestling guy?
ISO Joe getting in table for two. Yeah, go ahead.
ISO Joe, you're a UFC guy. You like a UFC guy.
Nah, I'm not a UFC guy, man. I'll take wrestling. I used to hate on wrestling when I was younger until I actually watched it. And then you get into it, you get into the characters that they do and all of that. I'll go boxing. UFC is a little bit too brutal for me, to be honest.
ISO Joe's the one that looks like he could just step in the UFC ring.
It's true,
man. I don't know what Joe's putting in his milk and juice, man, but we need to get some of that. Good time in the Sports Lounge. Always great table for two segment. Hack and Hank, Josh the Juice in here as well. Jay Powell coming up later on in the show. 11 years in the big leagues, Ray. First round pick, and now does a great job with Mississippi State Baseball Radio Network. So we're going to talk all about the Super Regionals and certainly Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Game time coming up. We're taking it all the way back. Going to be a lot of fun here and some parting shots. But on the other side of the break, we're going to look again at the SEC alcohol ban, and fitting for our deep dish for this week in the Sports Lounge. Stay tuned.
The Sports Lounge is the spot for every fan. Share the show for a chance to win a one-night stay for two at Waterview Casino in Vicksburg.
Hanging out in the Sports Lounge with my guy, Sugar Ray Coleman, Television Zone. I'm John Wiener. We're glad you're with us on the Sports Lounge every week. We're online everywhere. Make sure you check out all the other great Bash Brothers content as well. Our Play It Where It Lies podcast, the Pop Off podcast, and so many great features and stuff coming out, Ray. I got a chance to do all 3 NCAA regionals in 2 days. 36 hours, Starkville, Oxford, Baton Rouge, the epicenter of college baseball. Right? And we got it up on Bash Brothers Media right now. had a lot of fun writing it, dusted off the old chops, and a lot of cool stuff at Bash Brothers.
Yeah, man. Look, I meant to ask you, since we talked about, best venues, Alex Box Stadium, right? The Oxford Stadium and Duty Noble Stadium.
Yeah.
What are we talking about as far as where did you have the most fun?
Alex Box.
Really?
Yeah, just because of the LSU fans.
Yeah.
I mean, does anyone have more fun than LSU fans? Wow. I don't think that's even that much of a surprise.
I just knew you'd say Swayze, okay.
Well, I mean, Swayze, look, they're all great.
Yeah.
And, Swayze has more of a party atmosphere. Duty Noble Field is the nicest park and probably the best, baseball atmosphere.
Yeah.
But just in terms of, combining both of those things, I think, is Alex Box and Baton Rouge. And also, it was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
They were playing Southern Miss.
Yeah.
When I went to the state, it was a noon start on Friday. But Saturday night, LSU, full stadium. But I just think their fans and the Cajuns and the Creoles and the voodoo and everything else, man. I've always had, I think, a little bit of an allure for, the LSU fans just because of how fun they are. So I'll go Alex Box. But you couldn't find three better stadiums. They are the three number one atmospheres in the country, right? I mean, they're the three best college baseball atmospheres in the entire country: Starkville, Oxford, and Baton Rouge. And we're going to talk with Jay Powell, Mississippi State analyst and Bulldog great himself, 11 years in the big leagues. And we'll talk about that atmosphere. What's it like to play there?
Yeah.
Can you imagine stepping in the box or going on the mound in the ninth inning? A major league game is one thing, but the intensity and the passion for your team in college baseball and the fans.
Well, Duty Noble Field looks like a major league baseball field, if you ask me, man. Like you said, Alex Box and Swayze Field, all these places with the investments that they put into these facilities, it shows why the teams are top notch, because they're getting the best players to come in and play in the best venues, man, and it shows the atmosphere is absolutely amazing.
Well, speaking of the SEC, speaking of revenue, and speaking of having a great time, let's get into our deep dish right now. Mega news, a bit of a surprise. It was after the SEC winter meetings. Not the winter meetings, the SEC meetings in Destin. It was so far from winter. But the SEC has voted to lift the alcohol ban. And they're saying if the schools want to, they're leaving it up to the schools, but if the schools want to, it's no longer a conference policy. The alcohol ban is lifted, and that's now in play for the SEC, Ray.
And that ban has been in place for more than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. The first thing I think of is quite simply, okay, so what? Because as you and I well know, from covering it, from attending, like you just did, just to go and watch and cover it too, is this new? Is this a new thing, alcohol in the SEC venue?
No, but I think it's a very different thing. I mean, let's be real. And part of the whole, sure, everyone that's going to football games, especially on Saturday, if you enjoy in partaking, you will partake. And a lot of times that's part of the fun in the SEC, but it changes things a lot. Again, and they're not talking about selling booze either.
Right.
It's like
beer and wine. Beer
but
and wine.
It changes things a lot. Yeah, this is a significant deal. We should let people know that, ISO Joe was his friend said, oh, well, they heard about the SEC, lifting the alcohol ban, and they're now they want to come to Tiger Stadium. And Joe, I told you, I was yeah, because they never drank in Tiger Stadium before.
Exactly.
I'm sure my friends were going to come down either way,
anyway,
but that kind of gave them the extra boost, the extra momentum to be let's do it.
Okay.
But I don't think I don't think this changes too much, except for the fact that it changes a lot for the schools. All of a sudden, you have a new source of revenue and a new way to make an extra buck.
Yeah.
So if I'm the schools, this is kind of a no-brainer for me.
Do you think it's a no-brainer, though? Because that's what I want to get. One of the topics in our questions in Deep Dish is Alabama, for instance, has come out and said, we're good. We think our game day atmosphere is great. We don't want to do this. As much as this seems like a no-brainer for the schools and the conference, and certainly it would be better for the fans, Ray, I'm not so sure that all the schools are going to get on board. What do you think?
I don't think they will either. Like you said, Alabama's already said, nah, we're good. Auburn has said they're going to sit this one out too. We know kind of the rule with Mississippi, the state law as far as you can't serve beer or wine on college campuses, alcohol of any kind for that matter. I look at it as if we're taking this step as universities and colleges in the SEC, right? I feel like this takes away the amateur field. Now, full disclaimer, I've said long ago that the SEC is no longer amateur athletics. Let's just be real about it. But when you start introducing alcohol into the mix legally, right? Legally mixing alcohol into college athletics, I just feel like we're taking away from the amateur status of the event and what it means. Yeah. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm not buying that. I mean, I think that, like, for one, the shroud of amateurism in big time college athletics was like eroded long ago.
It's done.
And I don't make that connection between like the amateurism and like whether I'm drinking beer. Like, I'll go drink beer at a Little League game. You know what I mean? It's as amateur as it gets.
But you're not going to a university or college to go watch Little Leaguers play. You're just going to a facility where the kids are out and you pull it out of your car. Now we're saying go watch 18 to 21-year-olds. Oh, and by the way, while you're there, come buy some beer and wine. It's different from when you and I, John, just sneak it into, not saying that we sneak it into, but you get what I'm saying? There's a difference between saying, hey man, if you sneak it in, you get it in, good for you, have a good time. But now we're saying people who can't buy alcohol, we're watching them, legally they can't purchase it, but you can as a patron. There's a disconnect now. In my opinion, there's a disconnect from saying you're watching amateur athletics to now everything's up for grabs. Again, man, I've said it from jump. SEC, basketball, football, baseball, you name the sport, it's not amateur. It is professional.
Yeah.
We know that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but that's why I don't think that it really buying the alcohol really changes things to turn it into, no, this is an amateur now. Well, it really wasn't to begin with. And on top of that, like I was saying, this is kind of good for the schools as well if they choose to do it, because now you don't have people trying to sneak it into the stadium. Instead, they can buy from the stadium. The stadium can now cut you off and say, no, you've had too much to drink. And on top of that, maybe somebody doesn't go as hard in the pregame, in the tailgate, because they know that they can get some drinks inside.
That's one of the ideas here, certainly. But like, let's get real about like why this is happening. Like, for one, it's a revenue source. There's no question about it. And two, it's already happening a little bit. But there's an attendance problem in college athletics. People are not going to games like they used to because people want what they can access, and they want it now, and they want it immediately. And so much of the cell phone policies have changed, and the wireless internet policies have changed. And people more than ever, it seems like to enjoy some beverages in the daytime. And I think that's a lot what this is about too, is making the experience for the fans like what it needs to be and what the fans want it to be. And I think that's part of this too, is it's not just about revenue. I think it's addressing like the fans' need in the modern age.
I could be wrong, but you and I, we're in college, right? Or even the adult version of us. Now we're a little bit more responsible. So yeah, we'll go and buy
I was never responsible.
And so,
sure. So I had a lot of room to grow.
Adult Ray and John, we're going to go into the venue, we'll buy the beer, right? The college John and Ray, we're going to go buy an $11 beer, or we're just going to sneak in what we've been sneaking in?
No, and that's what I mean. And I don't think and that's where it doesn't change things a lot. I think this is for, the family, the father, the guys that go to the ball game. Like, Joe, I don't think it's as much of I don't think it changes things for the college kids as much, because they're, again, I think want to drink more than beer and more than like $11 beer. I think, again, this is about the family experience and the fan experience.
Did you hear what you just said? The family experience and beer and wine.
Yes, because and that's the point. Like, that's just the whole freaking point. Like, when a dad of four, like if I'm a dad, you know what I mean? I got a kid of two. I take my kids to a major league game. I want to have a couple beers. That's
me too.
One of the things
no
that
question.
I'm going to enjoy most. And the college kids, they're going to sneak in, you know what I mean? The Jim Beam and the hot Coke, like no matter what. But I think for a lot of, families, dads, uncles, and things like that, they're not going to like sneak in whiskey, like Betty Sue's over here and like you're just taking it down. Like this, I think, is actually, more for the fathers and the families, if that could be correct.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly nail on the head right there, because think about it, 80% of the college student body is underage anyways, freshmen through juniors, and on top of that, the rule says you can't sell the alcohol in these student sections to begin with. So yeah, this isn't going to change anything for the student body. They're still going to do their own shenanigans, whatever they want to do, but this rule really doesn't affect them. It's more about the family and, the fathers. And
listen, I'm not disagreeing with, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's the right move if you're in charge of these universities, because yes, it's the revenue.
So you think the universities should do this?
I think they should do it if we're talking about strictly revenue. I'm just telling you that the message of selling alcohol, when we say, hey, you should not be drinking, because that's the law, right? We shouldn't even be promoting it. The Mississippi law says we shouldn't even be doing it. And then all of a sudden we say, oh, no, it's okay. We can do that. That's all right. The 18 and 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds that are in the building, hey, y'all are just going to have to learn to wait while everybody else can go around and buy the $9, $10, $11 beers. Oh, but hey, we're going to act like you don't bring in your alcohol anyway. It's all hypocrisy, to be quite honest with you. This
should
have happened.
That.
If we're going to do it, then let's just say do it, and let's just make it available to if you're
just
20.
Like put the bars out there,
put
right?
the bars
just like
out there, and let's just be real about it, because this whole thing is a joke. That's what I mean by the amateurism. Let's quit acting like we're protecting these college students that you're talking about. Sure. Oh, we're going to put it on the ends away from the college section. That's a joke. They're drinking outside. They're coming in. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. We're going to come in. We're going to drink. We're going to have a good time. And if you think that these kids are not going to get access to this beer and wine, you're joking yourself.
Again, I don't think it's about the students as much nearly as the rest of the fan experience. But let's like credit the SEC here a little bit. Again, they're like, we're not going to stop you from doing it. You know what I mean? Like, we're okay with it, but there's still a long way to go. I think knowing that. So, in other words, it's a bit of a PR move. Yeah. I think it's a bit of a, again, we're going to satisfy, like we're going to show we're trying to upgrade the experience for the fans and, revenue part of it as well. But, a lot of this becomes, again, like which perspective you're coming from. But it will be interesting to see how it plays out, which schools adopt it, but as I think kind of is the consensus here, like for all of us who go to games and enjoy indulging anyways, it's like,
it's all going to happen, because at the end of the day, there's too much money to be left on the table. So it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Well, not a matter of if, when. Right now, coming up in the Sports Lounge, we're going to talk SEC college baseball, Mississippi State baseball, the Super Regionals at hand, Mississippi State's radio analyst, 11 years in the big leagues, game winner of the Game 7 in the 1997 World Series, SEC legend, made himself a whole pile of money in the big leagues.
Yes, sir.
He's going to join us next in the Sports Lounge. Jay Powell coming up. Stay with us.
You are in the Sports Lounge, Mississippi's place for sports.
You're in the Sports Lounge with Ray Coleman. I'm John Wiener, and happy to welcome in right now into the lounge Mississippi State SEC legend, 11 years in the major leagues, and currently the radio analyst with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Big times, Ray and Starkville for baseball. Jay Powell in the lounge. Jay, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Jay, before we get to Mississippi State, there's some other, in terms of the team, some MLB draft news coming out, this week, and Jake Mangum goes in the 4th round to the New York Mets. First of all, it's the same deal every year where the Major League Baseball draft is happening in the middle of the playoffs. But what do you make of Mangum's selection and kind of, how he projects in the major leagues with the Mets as a guy who, pitched against hitters for 11 years there?
Yeah, I mean, Jake. I think Jake's a big leaguer. I mean, I think he's gonna make it. I think he'll do well. I've said all along it's got to be the right organization that kind of can buy into the way that Jake is as a productive player. So much of it has got into launch angle and home runs and high strikeout totals, and that's not the type of player Jake is. And when you factor in the way he plays defense and center field, and you don't get the number of hits that he's gotten in the SEC without being a really good ball player. And sometimes, as a coach and a scout, you undervalue sometimes a guy that consistently barrels the baseball up, and that's what Jake does. And I'm happy for him. He's worked his tail off. He's a great kid. He's a great leader, and he's going to do well. I think the Mets got a good one there in the 4th round.
Coach, kind of talk us through your draft day vibes from back in the 90s. What were you thinking? What were your vibes? What were you feeling when your name was called, when you got that call from the organization?
A first-round pick.
Yeah, no doubt. Kind of talk us through your day.
Well, of course, it was a lot different back then. We, the only really media there was the local TV and, the Clarion Ledger, I think, had someone covering it, and Meridian Star. And, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of excitement. You don't have the media coverage, but you kind of have an idea a couple days before you start getting somewhat of a good sense of where you're gonna go. The whole time I'd heard the 7th or 8th pick was where I was headed, which the Red Sox had, I think, the 7th, and the Mets had the 8th. Yeah. And I kept hearing 7-8, 7-8. And so everybody had kind of locked in, you started locking in the guys and this and that. Well, the Red Sox took Trot Nixon, the high schooler, which both of those teams supposedly were going to take college guys. And then, of course, the Mets took Kirk Presley, the pitcher out of Tupelo. Yeah. And so then, we were kind of like, okay, now what's going on? Well, I kind of slid all the way down to 19. And it, so it's still it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of excitement, but it's one of those things that you only really go through it one time in your life, obviously. And it's just, it's the unknown, and that's sometimes a little scary, but at the same time, it's a really, really exciting day.
Jay, talk about fun and excitement. When you played at Dudy Noble, it looks a lot different, certainly today.
No doubt.
And, I got a chance to be there on Friday for the opener, and just what an atmosphere, what a scene. But as a player, I mean, we went to Swayze, we went to Alex Box, and it was just, I told my brother, I said, can you imagine stepping into the batter's box in this situation with that college crowd behind you? What's it like for these players to play in that environment?
Well, we talked to, I think, Jake Gautreaux after maybe the Saturday game. It was one of the games, when Coach Simeone went to do the press conference. And I told Jake, I made a comment. I said, when you recruit a kid, this is what you recruit them to come into. Yeah. And this is what it's all about. And, it's that environment is special. And you don't get that, and look, they have some great baseball on the West Coast, but you watch UCLA play the other night, and I made a comment, it looks like the Soda Central, Madison Central crowd.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
And it's not a knock against them. It's just the amount of importance and how people love and are passionate about college sports and college baseball and the state and the Southeast. And it's special, man. It's a lot of fun. Your adrenaline gets flowing. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Mississippi State hosting Stanford in the Super Regional round. Jay, what tools does Mississippi State possess to kind of keep down that firepower in the bats of Stanford? I saw that they had 12 homers in their last 5 games of their regional. They went 4-1 in regional play. From the defensive side, from the pitching side, what does Mississippi State possess to kind of keep those guys at bay?
Well, the main thing they got is Ethan Small. I mean, Ethan has went out and I was really looking for. I made a comment at the gym when Ethan pitched against Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament. I said, to me, this is the best matchup of the year in the SEC. And it was a 1-0 game. He threw great. I think, obviously, having him throwing game 1, he's as dominant of a college starter that I've ever seen. And to be able to go out and strike out as many guys as he does and just he doesn't give up much. And they're going to have to, you like that matchup. You like the bullpen threw well. Cole Gordon always, for whatever reason, he's kind of like Mr. June and May. I mean, the postseason rolls around and he starts rolling on these good outings. And so those guys are throwing well. You've got some guys in the pen that can offset that. The thing State's got to do is, they've got to keep playing, and it's such a cliche, but team baseball. They did a better job in the regional, using the whole field when they're swinging the bat. They played good defense. They turned some double plays. Fundamentally, they were solid. The base running mistakes that we saw a little bit were cleaned up for the most part. I mean, they were really good. And I made a comment to Jim. I said, Jim, I've been in the dugout a lot, and I said, you got a feeling that the coaches are saying we played pretty well, but we still got some in the tank. They still, that offense played well, but now, Jake was in a pretty rough little stretch there and broke out of it with those 3 hits. But, all of a sudden now you get Jake back hitting and these guys that have been so productive. I mean, that can be a dangerous lineup. And they're going, you get into game 3 of a regional, whether it's a super regional or a regular, you're going to have to score some runs. So it's going to take good pitching. It's going to take good defense. And they're at some point probably going to have to score some runs and outscore them.
Yeah, Ray Mangum's coming back at the right time.
Absolutely.
He's coming with a vengeance here in his last couple of weeks. And Jay, when you look, around the Super Regional, 6 SEC teams out of the 16, you've seen almost every one of them up close. Specifically, I'm, interested in that Ole Miss Arkansas series. I know you've seen both clubs. We got a lot of listeners across the Southeast. Just what team, apart from Mississippi State, what series? Maybe it's that one in Fayetteville, kind of stands out for you and intrigues you.
Well, the first thing I want to say, because I've got a bunch of friends that are Ole Miss fans, Mike Bianco can coach.
Yeah.
He can coach. And, 3 weeks ago, it was, he's, that's how they were. And I said the guy can coach. I said he's a good baseball coach, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm a state guy, but I'm proud to see Mike in it. He's a good man. And, they've got a tough road. I mean, going to Arkansas, you saw what they did to Mississippi State over there.
Yeah.
Arkansas is really, really good at home. That's, Duty Noble's tough to play in. Arkansas is pretty tough, and A&M's pretty tough to play in, too. So, Ole Miss got a tough road, but they're playing well, they're hot, and so much of it this time of year is who gets hot. Same thing with LSU. I mean, that's probably one of the least talented teams they've had, but they're just kind of getting on this little roll, and all of a sudden they're starting to believe they can beat some people. They can be dangerous. Vanderbilt to me is kind of I think they're probably the best team in the conference. Now that don't mean they're going to win it, but from top to bottom, offensively, defensively, and pitching, you just don't see those type of college baseball teams very much, and it just seems like every year they keep rolling these guys out there that's 93 to 97, and they got great breaking balls, and they're, great defensively. They're hitting home runs. They're high average. I mean, they seem to always be a complete team, and they're good. Vanderbilt is really good.
Jay Powell, one of the best to do it at Mississippi State, one of the best in the business right now, no question about it. Jay, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again. Enjoy the weekend.
Guys, I appreciate it. Enjoyed it, man.
Thanks a lot, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Jay Powell in the Sports Lounge. And Ray, you talk about an 11-year big leaguer, game winner of the 97 World Series, SEC legend at Mississippi State, and a guy that went first round out of Starkville so many years ago. Love the perspective.
A couple of things that jumped out to me from his interview. I like the way he said he slid to 19. That's a competitor, right?
That too.
19th overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft.
And
I slide to 19.
Yeah,
He felt like he was slept on a little bit. The compliments that he gave to Ethan Small, right? To say that he is probably the best pitcher he's seen come through Mississippi State. You started naming them, right? I was wondering if he was going to remember some of the guys that's come through. Jay Powell's one of them, by the way. Chris Stratton, just if you want to go back to recent history. Ethan Small, though, what he has done for this ball club this year, he is absolutely phenomenal. And you heard Jay Powell say it. He knows pitching, right? Yeah. To hear him say that Ethan Small is one of the best pitchers he's ever seen, period, that's a huge compliment.
And he knows baseball. And Mississippi State or Ole Miss aside, you can call the game and call what you see. Mike Bianco can coach, as he said. And as a longtime baseball guy, to sort of see the conversation around Bianco, a guy who can really, really just flat out coach, have some success, was good to see for him. And good for us to have Jay Powell in the lounge. The hits keep coming. He's Ray Coleman. I'm John Wiener. Stay with us.
The Sports Lounge is hosted by Waterview Sportsbook and Casino in Vicksburg, Mississippi's #1 place for legal sports betting.
I'm ISO Joe, and this is the Sports Lounge. This is game time. But before we get to this week's game, we're going to see how last week went.
F4. Yeah, you in there. Come on now. And you,
Ray,
come on.
You sunk my battleship.
Come on, man. I'm back in the winner's circle. Pop a shot.
Back to the original.
Back to the original.
Last week.
It didn't go good, man.
So last week, Battleship, you guys just saw it. Didn't really go well for John. Ray took the dub.
He got the Battleship quick, man. It was like I was so done.
It's called strategery.
That's right.
But you saw the spin, and this week we've got Pop a Shot. So let's get things started. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
You're going to tell us now. I've lost in this game like a bunch of times already.
And this one's simple. You just got to get that ball in that hoop, follow that counter. You got 30 seconds on the clock. The player with the most is going to get the dub.
And I ask you the same thing all the time. How you feeling? Because listen,
I at least know how to play it. I don't feel good, honestly.
When you won, though, you said you felt pretty good. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I lost this game like a bunch when we were first setting up the Sports Lounge. I had my counter jacked up. I cheated on you and still lost.
Okay.
Like, that's when you feel bad. Like, I cheated, like, purposely and still lost.
Every time you play this game, it's a learning moment. So who knows? Maybe you got your rhythm this time, and maybe you're ready to roll.
I think it was you that said, like, every setup for failure is a lead to a breakthrough.
So let's make it happen. I don't know if I said that, but I'll take it.
You didn't, actually. It was Stuart Conley. You could never say anything that good. ISO Joe, I'm out here ISO'd on the wing, man. I'm pounding it. I'm ready to go.
That's enough talk. Let's actually get to the game, all right? Get ready. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Already going bad. No. not going how it's supposed to go. I see you dropping balls over there, bud. What's going on? You better stay on. Oh, no, come back. Oh, you're losing ammunition. Guys, this could be pretty close. Come on. Shooting this thing like...
Oh, I see what's happening.
I got really bad all of a sudden, man. I was in a rhythm. Stop, I'm shooting it too hard. This was going good for a while. I was like, the pressure happened.
What'd you get? Because I saw what happened.
Hang on. We could have a shot here. 16 for your boy.
He won.
Oh!
He won 16-14.
It's a battle of attrition.
How about that?
This week on Papa Shot.
16-14, John Wiener.
16,
I got 14,
14?
yeah.
Feels like a landmark day here in the
It
sports
is a
lounge.
landmark day.
Well, that was a fun game, man. Papa
It was.
Shot's always good. It was like
I lost one, but
I lost a couple. I
Yeah.
think that's what I need.
Yeah.
I think I needed a break like that, and I got it. I got it.
The Sports Lounge, the spot for every fan. Online, on screen, every week at Bash Brothers Media.
Well, look, you've seen it. We do a lot of cool things, cool new things here in the Sports Lounge. But Ray, I don't think anything like Game Time.
no, man. And we took it all the way back to the beginning with Papa Shot. I had a rhythm to begin things, but at the end of the day, winners win.
Well, you see where the legend chain is. It's back where it belongs. But let's go to ISO Joe for the official tally.
Yeah, we saw an improvement, and John won 16-14, I believe, was the final. And, a close game. Once again, I feel like Game Time's just getting closer and closer each week. And this time it was John who pulled out the W and improves to a 3-8 record. And Ray, unfortunately, falls down to a 6-3 record.
It happens, man. It happens to the best of it. And listen, you started off on 0 this time, so there is no kind of discrepancy. You are a legit winner today.
Well, like a 3-8. Like I grew up through so many 3-8 Mississippi State seasons. Like that's Sylvester Croom, Ed Orgeron numbers right there. Like
but you're building towards something.
How many 3-8s do people remember in Mississippi in our lifetime? From especially those Croom Orgeron. It was just like 3-8, one after another. We got to spin the wheel.
Legend chain,
and I get to spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Legend chains happening. Wheel spins coming. Let's see what we're playing next week in Game Time. NHL 94. We're going to make it happen. It is one of the great games in video game history.
Yeah,
I
man.
think it's appropriate for the Stanley Cup Finals still coming. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to switch to the Sega version on NHL 94, but you know your love for NHL 94.
No question, man. Listen, even if you're not a fan of hockey, you'll find something that'll fit you. Because like I said, they get out the fisticuffs a little bit,
absolutely.
everything, man.
We're close to coming with the fisticuffs in Game Time, man. We stay at this. Look, NHL 94. My promise to everyone here in the Sports Lounge and our audience, NHL 94 is happening because it's the one we've been waiting for.
It absolutely has been, man. So I'm going to train up on that one a little bit.
Well, look, I mean, you see it. We've done it all. Beer pong, like we brought a beer pong table into the Sports Lounge. Skee ball, Mackenzie kicked my ass.
Jenga.
Jenga, crossfire. I mean, we played the hoops a couple times.
You name it.
That's what you're getting in the Sports Lounge and nowhere else, I guarantee it. And we're glad you're with us. And before we go, time to send out some parting shots. A new segment here on the show. You can't leave the lounge without taking a shot. ISO Joe, what do you got?
So I'm going off of the sports parting shots, but staying in the entertainment industry.
Okay, good.
And I'm going with Jeopardy. James Holzhauer.
Yeah.
I saw something about this. Go ahead.
Absolutely destroyed, or was destroying, 32 wins, over $2 million in winnings on Jeopardy. Absolutely changed the game. And anybody who says that he wasn't good for the game of Jeopardy, my shot is at you because you're just wrong. Listen, this guy was awesome. I tuned in for the first time at Jeopardy in a very long time. And I think that he made the game exciting for once in a while with his new strategies and everything that he brought to the table. So I'm sure that the game is going to change a little bit, and I'm excited for that. I think Jeopardy is really going to benefit from everything that he brought.
Roger Goodell, don't ruin a good thing, man. I heard you make the comment that the preseason may not be needing 4 games anymore. The fact that you come up with that all of a sudden after they've been saying that for years and years, hey, man, kudos to you. But don't try to use that, you and Jerry Jones, as a sticking point to add 2 games on the back end or a wild card playoff game, however you want to look at it. If you're serious about player safety, remove the 2 games, but leave it as it is. More importantly, after the player safety, let's focus on what the fans want, and that's quality football. I don't think adding 2 games to the most famous sport in the world, for that matter, will help make a more of a positive impact. You got gold in your hands right now. Just keep striking it. Don't ruin something that's already a proven winner. If you do, then you do. I'll be watching anyway. I'm a fan. But at the end of the day, I think you got a proven winner. Just stick to it.
College baseball, the biggest sport right now in the Southeast, and certainly Mississippi takes center stage with that. I had an incredible experience last weekend. It was a once-in-a-lifetime deal to hit 3 NCAA regional sites in 2 days, and it was anything more than I expected, and encourage everybody to check that out on bashbrothersmedia.com. And what a lucky place we're in, and what a great place. There's nowhere like Mississippi in the South for sports, and certainly SEC baseball. And a couple of draft notes that were very interesting this week. We talked about Jake Mangum. What a career. What an accomplishment for him at Mississippi State. 4 straight Super Regionals. This is a guy who bet on himself last year as a 30th round pick plus. He came back to Mississippi State, had another exceptional season, broke the SEC hits record, and is going to the MLB draft in the 4th round to the New York Mets, which maybe Mangum could have gone to a different organization. But what a great career for him, and kudos to Jake Mangum. And some huge news for Ole Miss, not baseball, but football. The all-world, do-it-all, 2-sport athlete, Jerrion Ealy, who was committed to Ole Miss to play baseball and football, was expected to be a 1st or 2nd round pick in the Major League Draft, has pulled his name out of the Major League Draft, which means that Jerrion Ealy is playing football in the fall in Oxford for the Ole Miss Rebels. And that, folks, is really exciting news for everyone here in Mississippi and the Sports Lounge. So those are your parting shots, and we're glad everybody's been in the Sports Lounge with us this week. Again, for everybody here, we encourage you to follow us, of course, like the show, share the show, tell your friends about it. Ray, I really believe that it's one of the hottest new shows going that you'll see anywhere. Mississippi, Montana, Michigan, Massachusetts. It doesn't matter, online. And really excited about what we're doing here, and excited to get in next week.
Absolutely, man. It's a unique experience. I don't think you'll go anywhere and find game time the way we do it. Just not even, the same topics that we talk about every week. We bring a new perspective from Table for Two, bringing in these special guests, you name it. Nobody's doing it like we're doing here in the Sports Lounge. So just come on, hang out with us, and have a good time.
Sports are serious. We know that. It is our life, but it's also fun. It should be serious and fun and smart and hard and everything at the same time. And that's what we try to do here in the Sports Lounge. Big thanks to Jay Powell for joining the show. Always great to have an 11-year big leaguer, SEC legend. And
it slid to 19th, by the way.
It slid to 19th. We hope we can slide. We hope we can get to the point where we can slide to the 19th overall pick. Really great to have Jay Powell on the show here in the Sports Lounge. And of course, Hack and Hank, our director, Josh the Juice on the audio, ISO Joe on the ISO cam, and Ray Coleman.
My man.
Always a pleasure.
As always.
Join us in the Sports Lounge next week.
Thanks for stopping into the Sports Lounge. Join us online, on screen, every week at Bash Brothers Media.